It's January and time to start planning your garden. If you want to have your best garden ever, you must avoid these 5 mistakes. The first mistake you need to avoid is not understanding why you even want to have a garden. Do you want just enough vegetables for fresh eating through the season? Or do you want to grow enough produce to preserve food for the off season or for the entire year? Maybe even longer than that. Maybe it brings you joy to have enough excess to share the fruits of your labor with friends and family throughout the summer. Or maybe you want to make a bit of extra money by selling your produce at your local farmer's market. If you don't know why you want to grow a garden, how will you determine how much you need to plant to achieve your goal? The second common mistake you need to avoid is failing to research the needs of the plants you want to grow. If you live in cooler climates, some vegetables such as okra may not grow for you. Lettuces can be difficult to grow where it's hot because they bolt quickly and can turn bitter in the heat. Pest pressure may make growing certain varieties of vegetables nearly impossible in your area. Contact your local extension office to find out what pests are in your area. Ask if they have any suggestions about what crops might not be good choices for you and which ones grow best where you live. And if you have a short growing season, which is the time between your first frost and your last frost, vegetables that take a long time to develop may not produce a harvest for you. Other requirements that you need to understand about the crops you want to grow include space, water, and soil requirements for the particular crop you intend to plant. For instance, corn will produce an average of 1 or 2 ears per plant, so you will not get much of a harvest if you're planning to plant in pots, unless you have a lot of pots. Did you know that blueberry plants, which can be planted and grown well in a pot, need a slightly acidic soil to thrive? And plants with shallow root systems will only be able to get enough water when the surface of the soil is kept damp. So if you live in a dry area, you will either have to water often or choose a different crop. Researching before planting or even before purchasing seed is important if you want to have a successful garden. The third common mistake that you want to avoid is growing vegetables that you and your family don't like or growing more than you need. It's so tempting to grow vegetables you see others growing even though you've never eaten them before. And while I firmly believe that you should plant at least one new vegetable every year, just plant enough to determine if you know how to use it and if you even like the taste. You may find your new favorite vegetable, or you may discover a vegetable you hate and never want in your mouth again. Give new vegetables a small area in your garden, but give your favorites lots of space so they can produce lots of food for you this season. Welcome to the old Mayfield place. I'm Snow, the farmer's wife, and I teach you to be more self-sufficient in so many ways, such as growing your own food, using herbal medicine, and preserving food for long-term storage. Fourth, don't neglect preparing the ground for a successful garden. Fruits and vegetables need nutrients to grow healthy and be productive. Before you even think about putting plants into the ground, you need to make sure your soil is healthy and contains the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and micronutrients your plants will need to thrive. Plants also need loose, loamy soil to allow the roots to grow deep and wide to take in those nutrients. Applying 2 inches of compost to your garden every year can add nutrients and organic matter to improve your soil, but compost isn't always enough. Consider having a soil sample analyzed to determine exactly what amendments your garden needs to optimize your growing conditions. If you have a new area of ground that you are planning to use as a garden spot, don't wait until just before planting time to till it up. Tilling just before planting encourages weed seeds to grow, so you'll be pulling a lot of weeds this summer unless you deal with them now. We tilled this area a few weeks ago and then added a few inches of compost and tilled the compost in. Finally, we covered the entire area with black plastic to kill any weeds that come up in the early spring. When those weeds do sprout, they will get no sunlight and won't be able to produce chlorophyll, so they will be weak and sickly. Then the heat trapped under the plastic will kill them off. When it's time to plant corn during the first week of May, we should be weed-free, or nearly so the corn will not have to compete with the weeds for the nutrients and water it needs to produce an abundant crop. Preparing your ground may be the most important step to ensure you get a great harvest. The fifth mistake you need to avoid to have a successful garden is failing to have a plan. Are you going to start your seeds inside to set out at the appropriate time, or are you going to purchase plants from your local nursery? Either way can provide you with abundant food this summer. But while purchasing plants from your local nursery saves you time and effort, it may cost you a lot of money. On the other hand, while starting seeds is a very cheap way to grow a lot of food, it will require some effort on your part. Do you have time to start and care for all those plants? Do you have the space needed to grow all those plants inside while you're waiting for the weather to warm up? Again, if you're going to start your own seed, you will have to research the exact time you need to get those seeds planted indoors so they will be mature enough to transplant outdoors when the time comes. If you only want enough food to grow so you can eat fresh this summer, you may want to opt to purchase plants at your local nursery. Depending on the plants you want to grow, you will probably pay $3 to $7 per plant, maybe less. 5 tomato plants should be more than enough to keep you in tomato sandwiches this summer, and $15 is a wise investment for those who don't want to spend the time caring for seedlings. However, if you want to can enough tomatoes for your next year's needs for soups, sauces, and ketchup, you may need 100 tomato plants. That's $300 if you purchase them at the nursery. In this case, it makes more sense to buy 5 packets of seeds. At 25 seeds and $2 per packet, $10 worth of seeds is well worth the time and space it will take you to get those plants for your garden. To learn more about planting, growing, and canning tomatoes, I have a playlist that will help you get started. Just click here. Thank you for stopping by the Old Mayfield Place today. Stay prepared, start planting your garden now, and have a blessed week.